Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Good morning, Kennedy. Getting audio feedback somewhere.
I ain't got no.
Kennedy, did you just sit up taller so everybody can see your letters?
Right. Because now you cut off your head.
Your head disappeared. So
I know he did it, and I know
it did. It did disappear. So
why don't you just zoom the camera back a little bit since we obviously know what you're trying to show us all.
I was not trying to do nothing. Why y'all trying to do that?
Okay.
It's early in the morning for all that.
Happy Saturday to both of you.
Yes, happy Saturday.
Same to you, Doc.
It is a balmy 80-something degrees already.
Yeah, it was definitely hot last night, and it's gonna be hot today too in Texas. So
yeah. So speaking of hot,
yeah.
Somebody check Nick Saban's bath water. It's hot.
That right there. When I woke up that morning heading into work, he said what? I don't replaying the video. I was like, Jackson State this and Jackson State that. We show living people head rent free.
That's right. It's a good thing for us because we couldn't pay for that type of media.
No.
We don't have the budget for it.
But we got $1 million for a player.
Yeah, our coach makes $300,000. So you think he's gonna pay a player $1 million? I don't think so. That's bad business.
Well, first of all, $1 million would be 1/8 of the entire athletic budget for the whole school. So
yeah, that's all sport. That's all sport.
I mean, we're an $8 million budget organization.
Wow, he's a $9 million coach, Mr. Irvin, that is.
Right.
Makes $9 million a year. So
a year? Wow, I thought that was just throughout his contract. So that's even worse.
Yeah.
So when you think about that, put this in perspective for a second. So Jackson State athletic budget for all sports is $8 million a year. We're nowhere close to the largest budget in HBCUs by a long shot. We're not even topping the SWAC by a long shot. We're near the bottom.
Wow.
I think
we're actually middle of the road.
Okay, we've increased. We were near the bottom. But FAMU's budget is bigger now. Prairie View's budget is bigger now. Double ours, in fact. I think, So Alabama's budget, though, since we want to throw out those figures, old St. Nick, Alabama's budget, I believe, is $180 million for all sports.
That's correct.
So $8 million.
Yeah, $8 million.
$180 million.
Oh, 80.
No.
$180
million is Alabama's budget for athletics. Jackson State's budget is $8 million.
Right. Kennedy, you remember we had that long discussion about TV and SEC network and what that means to those member institutions. That's how you get a $180 million athletic budget.
Okay.
Now, I think the football budget alone, Charles, is about $80 million in that, isn't
it? Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
So, I think. But here's the thing. It's all negative for Nick Saban because now he's burned the bridge with one of his former coaches, Jimbo Fisher, because that's really who he was talking to.
Right.
He was talking to two audiences. He was mad at Jimbo, and he was talking to his own boosters saying, you got to get your money up because they outbidding us on players.
But why is he mad at Jimbo Fisher? I'm trying to understand.
Because this is how it works, Kennedy. This is how it works. In Power 5 football, he who has the #1 recruiting class has an excellent chance of 3 to 4 years later winning a national championship.
Okay.
Over time, that's proven. #1 recruiting class, in 3 years, you're playing for the championship.
Yeah.
And so he knows that A&M is now in the mix for that. That hurts him.
Okay. But the thing is so crazy. I didn't really realize it till one of my friends brought it up. They was like, "Yeah, I don't even know why Nick Saban did that. They were friends before then." I was like, "Friends?" They was like, "They did a whole Aflac commercial." I was like, "They definitely did do a whole act like they know each other. It's not like Dion and Nick haven't met at all." Like that's what makes it so crazy to me. Like, why would you?
Hey, because here's the thing, and I heard Feinbaum talking about this. Name, image, and likeness, yes. But because of who Coach Prime is, because of his stature in all sporting communities, because of his name recognition, and because of the job that he's doing at Jackson State, he has become a threat to all institutions because he doesn't have to pay players to play for him. One, we have one of the most inviting and exciting cultures in all of HBCU. So if you can expose kids and their families to Jackson State's football culture, we've always known it because we've always been around and been here. But a lot of people have never seen what it's like on a game day. A lot of people have never seen what it's like on campus. So when you put those things together and they now see something that mirrors what Alabama or LSU or Ole Miss have going on television, but it's all black people. Oh, wow.
This exists, right? This exists. That's
Yeah.
what.
And I'm gonna also throw in this as as a former athlete, and Charles will tell you because he was one of those band members. It is a different feeling to play in your culture. I've had the opportunity where you go and you play outside of your culture and you don't have a lot of fans travel, and it's just a football game. That is a totally different experience than when you playing in your culture and those bands are blowing with songs and the fans and the wave and the whole camaraderie. That's a whole different level, and you can't duplicate it. And so that's not something that money can buy. That's not something that can duplicate at a Power Five. It's totally different. I have been to the Power Five games at the height. I have had the pleasure and privilege of being invited to be in a booth at a Clemson game. I've been to a state game, an Alabama game before, and I can tell you that there was definitely a lot to what Coach Brown said. He said if you let a kid come to a HBCU homecoming, particularly at Jackson State with 60,000 packed out, that's quite a compelling case. It's going to be very hard for any of them to compete with that because they don't have a counter compete other than money and facilities, and so it's real interesting. And I think as Travis Hunter is even more successful, then and he will be, it's only going to continue to raise the flag, not just for Jackson State, but for all HBCs. And you're already seeing it. But watch this upcoming year. I think you're going to see 5-stars not only come to Jackson State, but you're going to see a 5-star go to a school that's not named Jackson State.
Right.
In this upcoming year, I really believe that.
And it's going to start happening. I believe it. I do too. I truly do.
Well, when you have statements in the media, and so here's what Power 5 schools miss on. They've dominated the conversation for so long. They miss on the fact that you're giving us free media. So in recruiting, if you hear Alabama, Texas A&M, Jackson State, well, guess who just leapfrogged into the top echelon of recruiting? Jackson State, because you just heard it that way.
True. So I have a question. Granted, Dr. Irvin, you said ways to increase the budget is through the media. Like you said, SEC has their own network. But you just explained how certain HBCUs in the SWAC have higher athletic budgets than us. How can what are other ways Jackson State can increase their budget though, if that makes sense? If we're in the middle.
So here's what you have to watch because this is happening. It's unfolding as we speak. Their budgets are larger because they have larger student bodies.
Oh.
Okay. So revenue comes in through tuition. largely on black campuses, tuition fronts everything, salaries, departmental budgets, housing, all of it. I can remember when North Carolina A&T first started on their run, they were not what they are today. And then look at the graduation they just had. They just had the largest HBCU graduation in the history of HBCUs.
How many did they have?
I couldn't tell you the exact number, but I know it was. I mean,
I know I went to PV last weekend, 1,000. I was late to my own friend graduation and I still didn't miss her. Like an hour and a half late because of
we're talking about probably double that or more than that. I mean, it was the whole gymnasium floor.
Wow.
But that came from their football run.
Okay.
Football takes care of a lot of things. So we about to have a housing crunch. We about to have all kind of crunches because not only are football players going to come, that engineer is going to come, that pre-med student is going to come.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That political science student is going to come. So you're going to have a new generation of lawyers, doctors, accountants, finance, educators on campus to experience the culture. And before you all got that fancy walkway, all we had
oh my gosh,
all we had was the plaza.
Y'all sound just like my dad.
And it's nothing like it. And so what families are rediscovering is, we talk about Jackson State and its culture, but you have that all across the country.
Yeah. I mean, you know what's ironically that a lot of people don't talk about, because Jackson State, because of Coach Brown, we get most of the coverage. But here's what's quietly happening around the conference. Everybody is elevating. Everybody's elevating. So if you look, and it's not just Jackson State and FAMU, which is what people thought it was going to be, but look what Alabama State is doing with a new coach that's just coming in for the first season. They just brought in a 4-star transfer quarterback from Auburn, who was Mr. Football in Texas. And Kennedy, I'm going to take you back and make you remember this because you were still here at that time. Remember the first year Duncanville went undefeated, went to the state championship game, lost on the last play of the game, that Hail Mary to this team, North Shore out of Houston. Well, that quarterback was a freshman at that time. He went on to win 2 more state championships, 3 more, and he only lost 1 game in his high school career. He was Mr. Football in Texas. But that player is now at Alabama State.
Really?
So, yes. So you're starting to see this stuff happen. That's a 4-star kid. That really, by a lot of accounts, was a 5-star kid. So it's happening. And you know, what just transpired yesterday with Peter Woods, that sat down in an interview with OWN 24, the recruiting service. I forget the name, but I know it's OWN something. And he's a 5-star recruit out of Alabama, Alabaster, Alabama. He has offers from Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Texas. I mean, all the big boys.
And Jackson State.
And he just got an offer from Jackson State this week. And so here's what they asked him. They said, does Jackson State offer you late in the recruiting game hurt their chances? He said it does absolutely nothing to their chances. In fact, I would put them automatically in my top 4 right away, up there with Alabama, Georgia, LSU. And then he goes on to say, I've been waiting on this offer. I've been waiting on this offer. When is the last time you ever heard a 5-star say they've been waiting on an offer from an FCS school? Not to mention the HBCU FCS school. And he says, I've been waiting on this offer. And he said the HBCU culture is unduplicated. He said, and I am a big fan of what Coach Prime is doing there, and that I can see myself really fitting into that program.
That's right. Come on home, son. Hey, Nothing like it in this world. 1400 Lynch Street.
Listen, I'm just saying, listen, we all knew 1400 Lynch Street, but it still shocks me when I'm watching podcasters or even on first take. It was one of the sports shows this week, and I hear other people that are non-HBCU people saying there's something special going on in Jackson, Mississippi. There's something special going on in 1400 Lynch Street. And I'm thinking to myself, what they know about 1400 Lynch Street?
Yeah, a lot of commentators were talking about it, especially when Nick Saban said that. I want to say Sharp said that. It was another. I wish I could figure out his name right now. But he was a black commentator.
Oh, yeah,
a lot of people was like, "Are you serious? You gonna say that right now?" And Shannon kind of went in on.
Yeah.
Shannon went in on him just a tad.
So, and that's what I mean by free media. What Coach Saban didn't realize was not only is Coach Prime a good coach, he's a good networker. He has friends at all of these stations because he was at NFL Network all that time. He gave everybody access to him. So when you come for him, all you do is blow the program up. So we got a whole news cycle, then another news cycle to digest what was said in the first news cycle of nothing but Jackson State on all radio stations that talk college football, all online forums that talk college football, on the flagship Fox Sports, ESPN, on YouTube, all the YouTubers. Why is Nick Saban going after Coach Prime and Jackson State?
Yeah.
So then what happens from that is a Division II All-American that we probably were in the running for commits. Probably the best running back in the MEAC last year commits.
Right.
So it has a domino effect. It's positively for us, but as Leslie said, it's gonna help elevate all programs, because if you notice, the other thing that Coach Saban doesn't understand about HBCU culture, we can argue amongst ourselves. Right. But now when you come from one of us, everybody's going to come to the defense of whoever is being attacked. And so you had people from Alcorn, Southern, FAM even. FAM, yeah.
No, but even FAM.
I know. I'm giving them their credit. For stepping up.
I guess y'all, yeah. But
I think what people underestimate, and I say this to any kid that's considering the HBCU, whether academically or to play sports and academically, let me just make this clear to you. There is your HBCU family internally, your school you attend, and then there's the bigger HBCU family that's comprehensive. They both exist, and they're both real. And so that statement that Charles just made, it's okay if we go after each other, but now if you come after one of us, you come after all of us.
Exactly.
And that is that family thing. And there's not a Power 5 in America that can match that.
No.
Okay.
That's that culture we're talking about. It's infectious. You and now, Kennedy, since so proudly showing us your letters, you have entered another culture which is wrapped and entangled very closely with the HBCU culture, and you're going to get a double whammy of it. So I don't travel without something JSU on. And I might have my fraternity stuff on, I may not, but I always will have something JSU on when I travel. Because somebody
never know who you're gonna run into.
Yeah, very true. Especially, and because I've been subbing before I leave, for my internships and stuff. And I'll tell them like, hey, if you have any questions about college, I go to Jackson State, and the kids like, you go to Jackson State? I was like, yeah. They was like, so have you met Dion? I was like, I actually did when I was in the gym working out. So I actually did meet him before. And they was just like, it's actually crazy. One of the high schools that I sub at, they said one of the football players there actually just committed to Jackson State as well. And I was just like, well, that's good. He chose a great school. And the same thing, even when I wore my letters to school yesterday, one of my students was like, so you're a Delta? I said, Yes, I am. They was like, I've watched y'all on YouTube. I said, and you keep that to yourself when you go to college. I said, that's what I told her. But it's the influence that you have. I feel like Black people don't realize whether it's like Jackson State or you wear HBCU paraphernalia, Greek paraphernalia. It's the influence that you have on younger generations. So I kind of tell them, be like, if they was acting up a little bit in class, I'd be like, come on, I'm in college. I said, college is funner than this. You really want to stay here in high school? I said, come to Jackson State. So it's good. And it's a lot of one thing I didn't realize, I don't know about on your side of town, Mr. Peters, it's a lot of Mississippi people moving up here. Like it's two Slawcorn alums that worked at the high school that I was subbing at. One of them was from Natchez. I was like, dang, it's a lot of y'all coming up here.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, now they moving on my side of town. So I mean, listen, this is the powerhouse of all where most of your predominant and dominant African American athletes are in the Dallas Metroplex. They're here. The
Yeah.
big boys over here, the Duncanvilles, the Sotos, the Cedar Hills, the Mansfields, the Grand Prairie. That's it. So of course I see that influx. And I think what you see happen, even, and I've seen it in a microcosm here, there are kids that come from out north that want to play here. The culture over here is it's a high school version of it, but it's very similar to a Jackson State.
Yes.
And, the swag culture. So again, you're allowed, the swag is different. The game atmosphere is different. Right. And I go to all of them on a Friday night in Texas. I'm usually, now that's probably going to change because now my daughter in high school and she's going to have all her stuff. So I'll be there. But, any given Friday night in Texas in the past, I was at some high school, whether it be Allen, whether it be McKinney, watching high school football. And so I've been all over the Metroplex, and I can tell you there's just something different.
Yes, it's a lot.
South side.
It is. But it's a lot of like I said, like even when they had their college wall, and it just made me happy seeing HBCUs like FAMU, TSU, Dillard, Prairie View, Texas Southern. It's a lot of people in my neighborhood I didn't realize going to my neighborhood gym. There's a lot of Grambling alum here on this side of town too. I was like, wow. I was walking past students. I said, why you got that ugly Grambling hoodie on? They said, why you got that ugly JSU shirt on? I said, because it's the best college in the land. So
and that's what I mean. That culture that defines us is unspoken. Like we know we just joking. There have been times, Charles and I'll tell you, we've been just joking with some other HBC alums we meet out or we traveling, and people around us that's outside our country think they're like, should I call it? They don't know what to do with it, right? And I think some of the players mentioned that just when you can be comfortable, right, and you don't have to self-explain everything, and we all know that. I think if nothing else in the recent years, I think a lot of us as particularly as Black professionals that still work or are entangled in corporate America have had to constantly explain why this is offensive or why this happened or why we feel this way. Because if you're not in our culture, you don't walk in our shoes, you don't get it. Why is it that you got to narrate a police stop? Why do you feel like you have to do that? I literally had that question asked me. Why do you feel like you have to do that? Because it gives me my best chance of living.
exactly.
Why do you feel like, and I started asking the question back, why, even though we work together and you've seen me several times, why do you still clutch your purse and move as far away from me as possible when we're in the elevator? You know me. We're going to the same office. See that's what I'm talking about. So when you don't have to explain that, because it gets tiring after a while, and you can just be yourself, and people get it. It's an attractive thing, because sometimes you just want to be free. And so I think for athletes now, and I want to give these athletes credit in this generation, they're becoming much more savvy in their decision making. They're considering a lot more variables in their decision making process. and they're defining their own path. And so, if you want the bag, they'll go get the bag. Everything is a business decision, and they're making business decisions based on their goals and what's in their best interest. And I don't have a problem with that.
True.
That's the way it should be, actually.
Yeah.
Always. That's how it should be. Always.
Yeah, because you'll never hear me say and tell a kid don't go to a Power 5. I'm telling a kid, do what's best for you, but look at all the possibilities.
Yeah.
And you can't tell me the Power 5 is the best for you if you haven't looked at all the possibilities.
Well, here's something that's happening that I credit Coach Prime with. People get mad when you give him credit for stuff.
Right.
But by him taking his platform and shining a light on HBCU football and the excellence of Jackson State, people are becoming more open to the idea of HBCUs. And a lot of that is we just simply didn't have a large enough media profile or platform, because in a sense, it was the Chitlin circuit. All the black people knew, go to the Classic, you're going to have a good time.
Yeah.
You go to school at an HBCU, you're going to get a good job. But that's inside marketing.
Yeah.
That's
right.
mouth-to-mouth marketing. Power 5s have more money and more resources. But if you notice, at the time that Coach Prime was coming on, everybody at Jackson State raised their social media game. And so not only was his message being amplified, people were beginning to see little snippets of our cocoon. People were beginning to see little snippets of the vet on a Saturday. Like, what is that?
Right.
So it's like, okay, well, it is something going on there.
Yes,
let me give you a simplistic thing. I remember watching a broadcast, right? It was one of the ESPN broadcasts. This goes back to, the spring. So this was Coach Prime had just got there. This is the early ongoings of it. And we were on TV every game in the spring, every game. And so they were panning to one of the recruits, one of the recruits said, and I can't remember if it was Tiffany or Jay, and one of the comments from one of the recruits that was considering Jackson State at that time, that has since assigned, and I won't call her name, but his comment was, I've never seen a band enter a stadium like that. It gives me goosebumps. So I can relate to it as a player. You down there on the field, like, even as a fan, I can still relate to that. When you hear that boom, 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 you turn your head. Everybody in the vet, unanimously, the areas, it can be talking, it can be loud. As soon as you hear that, everybody turns, get the pom-poms, and it's an instantaneous reaction. Well, that culture now has been seen by millions. And then when you think back to what Charles said about the platform, when Coach Prime posts, it automatically go out to millions. Then remember how many blue check marks he got to follow him. The next year to their millions. So when he sends something out, that's magnified and hitting 20 million people every time he does it.
That's right. That's right.
We can't pay to hit 1 million people.
Right.
I'm just saying, as a small business owner, which I'll tell you, I know what the costs are. Look, can't pay for that.
That's why I said give that man his credit, because he helped raise the profile. It's not, he didn't create this. This is
raised it. Yeah.
This is rich tradition that's been in place since the beginning of Jackson State. We have the most Hall of Famers in the state of Mississippi, Power 5 included. So this is not something that's new. But what he did was he gave us a fresh coat of paint. He gave us some LED lights instead of the old fluorescents.
And look, You know,
he gave us new microphones. He gave us some
right, fancy
ones.
Oh my gosh.
You know, it was the difference between when you go to get your car washed and when you get your car detailed.
Yes.
You get a car washed, it ain't gonna hurt your pocket. Now that car detail, that's gonna set you back. They're gonna set you back some hundreds. But when they get through, you got a new car. Like Charles said, they're gonna take all that cloudy dust off your old light and make them new again. They wash the underwells underneath the wheel, all that's like it's new again. Oh yeah, that's a different kind of feeling. When you drive that baby, you're like, okay. You drive different, you swag different. Then you get mad when people don't take care of your car because it's so clean and nice. You want it to stay that way. You have a little attitude behind it. I know. Yeah.
True.
So he gave us a detailed job. We've been getting car washes. He gave us a detailed job.
Yeah.
And
even though we had tradition, like most programs, there are ebbs and flows. And we went through a string of high turnover in football coaches. And usually, and this is not just HBCUs, this is football period at any level. When you don't have consistent leadership, everything at the school suffers. The academic side doesn't like to acknowledge that. I'm on the academic side, but it benefits us to get in the rowboat together and push the programs, push the academics, push that along with the sports, because now we have a bigger audience to pull from.
You're 100% right. I mean, I would love to see a study on the increase in JSU's enrollment since Prime was announced to now versus where it's been the last 5 years.
Well, I would say give it another 2 years because he was announced during COVID. So
that's true. That's true.
So, you know, it's going to take a little bounce back, but you can see the momentum building. I mean, we have 4 home games this year. Watch.
It's going to be big. Each home
game. Room only for all of them.
Everyone.
Yeah.
And
we have Grambling, Southern, Campbell, and Valley. Yeah. Yeah. It's 460,000 plus games. Watch.
So you better just get to the stadium for 9 o'clock and you just call it.
Yeah, I already told my friends I'm not doing that. I said, and it's my senior year. I said, if you're not ready, you are getting left. You just gonna have to Uber because I'm not going. That parking gonna be ridiculous. So if you're not ready, it was even a little hard. Well, I don't want to say hard, but it was just a little shocking for me that I was still parking on kind of like the sidewalks for the spring game. You know, I thought I could maybe get in on just in the stadium parking. When I was on the sidewalk, I said, "This is just
a spring game."
Yes,
it was a good crowd out there, Liz.
It was a good crowd. It wasn't super like how it was at the games, but it was a good crowd for a spring game.
For a spring practice?
Yes, like I'm on parking on the sidewalk.
It was legit 20 to 25,000 people at the spring game.
Yeah, like so that's what makes it really exciting, and that's what I'm really excited about. Even certain my students, they was like, "Have you seen Travis Hunter?" I was like, "Yes." They're like, "Has he played yet?" I said, "He wasn't. He missed the season. You know, he graduated in the fall, and we don't have the season in the spring, so we haven't. He hasn't played yet."
Look, you know what you tell that, Kennedy. Tell him, say yes. He's a student on campus like me. He's a freshman. I'm an upperclassman.
Yes, that's what I told him.
But it's funny that you say that because I can tell you there was a whole group of young boys at the spring game. They didn't come to see Jackson State. They came to see Travis Hunter.
And him himself is going to bring even more media because I didn't realize how, you know, I played basketball and stuff. And granted, Texas football, when I first moved here, even my dad, he was like, these little boys running out of blow-ups, and we ain't had that when we was in Chicago. So I'm seeing it now how, like, boys are influenced, like they're watching it in the class, like watching football highlights of high school top 5. It's a huge, that within itself is a culture right there. Mm-hmm. Like, they're talking about it all the time. I'm telling them, hey, y'all, finish this assignment. Okay, go back to watching it. I'm just like, well, they just not going to listen. So, So that within itself, you know, some of them have fans already. So it really is exciting. I'm excited for my senior year because also we're gonna have a new male head coach. That's gonna be different. Mo Williams is gonna be different. Our girls gonna go back to the SWAC champ again. And
Let me
Reed
just
is getting ready to
good
get a new
point.
contract.
Good point. Charles, talk about the recruiting effect and what's happening with female girls basketball and boys basketball in the midst of all this, how these programs benefit off each other.
It's not just basketball. I mean, you look at the hot streak Coach Country is on with the track and field. You look at the hot streak baseball is on. You look at the new graduate volleyball player that's coming in, who openly said on Twitter just last week, I've gotten my PWI degree. Now let me see what this HBCU culture is about. Because we have that bigger platform. People now are looking for options. You know, you have the social justice issues, you have the political issues, you have that undercurrent of racism. You have a lot of things going on that have people considering alternatives.
Yeah, exactly.
You have issues that have happened on bigger campuses that have people considering alternatives. And let's face it, from a dollars and cents perspective, an HBCU education is one of the wisest investments that a family can make. Yeah. But they haven't had that in the mix because maybe they were in an area where it wasn't talked about as much. Well, lo and behold, you have arguably one of the best football players to ever play come in that everybody knows whether they watch football or not. And his friends just happen to be on Good Morning America, the Today Show, ESPN, Fox. You know, I mean, so they're all talking about their good friend Dion.
Sure.
It's gonna be a difference. And when Mo Williams comes, it's gonna be even a bigger difference. And I kind of want to transition just to basketball only because, first of all, I think who made the prediction when it came to the Suns in Dallas? I can't remember.
That would be me. That would be me. Yeah, that would be me.
I've already owned up to that. But here's what I want to
say. That right there, I can't believe it.
That would be me. I called it.
But and a lot of people was like, Chris is just never going to win a ring at this point.
No, but here's what I wanted to see. And I've already had this conversation with Liz. I give him his props live. I told him you were right. In a sense, I was right too. But because we both were focusing on Luka. I said Luka wouldn't have help. He said he would. And they came through for him. But that was against Phoenix. Now you're talking about a 3-time world champ.
Well, now I didn't predict that one.
Okay. Okay. All right.
They did make it a competitive game last night. It was a really good game.
They still lost though last night.
They had a 19-point lead and they still lost.
Yeah, they lost. They came out on fire, hit 15 of their first 18 3-pointers.
15. They made 15 3-pointers in the first half. They finished 21 of 45. So they made 6 in the second half.
And that's the thing about basketball, man. You it's not about, it's about being hot at the right time.
So it's a great education for them as to what it takes, because Golden State is full of vets who've raised championship banners and they're hungry for more. They're on the hunt.
They are. And LeBron is out the question, so they really are. They like, this should be not a cakewalk, but way easier than we've had in the past.
Listen, I'm going to tell you something that you already know, but true shooters will always score. Even when they're off, they will always score.
Find a way.
Streaky shooters have to be hot. And the problem with streaky is you're only hot for a limited amount of time.
So let's dive into that just a little bit. Because I think what's missing in this whole conversation is this. We focus on the shooting, the 3-point shooting. And I heard an old OG of newspaper reporting just this morning say Steph Curry broke basketball. because everybody wants to do what he does. Well, he is the best shooter to ever grace professional basketball. But if you look at the actual statistics of what's going on, he shot more twos than he did threes. So while you have these people over here in the Dallas Mavericks just chunking 3-pointers,
he's shooting twos.
They got beat by twos.
Yeah, because look at the statistics. You're gonna hit more twos than you hit threes. It's just the math doesn't lie.
Yeah, points in the paint was like Golden State scored 62 points in the paint last night.
Wow.
Dallas scored 24, 25, something like that. Right.
It's all about probability. Look, I can remember Dr. Agaro at Jackson State, my stats teacher, who would always break that down. Now, how you get a bunch of athletes interested in statistics on a Monday morning at 8 o'clock? This is what I'm talking about, that culture. He made it sports related. He broke it down and looked at our stats and made that stuff fun. So it was one of my hardest courses because he challenged us, but it was one of my favorite courses when it was all said and done. And that guy, all respect to the late Dr. Agaro, rest in peace. But man, he made an impact on my life. Just the way you look at numbers. And I can say here, Mr. Peters, you must look at numbers differently, sir. And so to this day, my love affair numbers and really looking at the statistics of it and the standard deviations, means for error, all that comes from Dr. Agaro and the way he translated that. And so when you look at what Charles is saying and you look at the statistics of it, it's very obvious that the two-point shot is still the most effective shot in basketball because you're going to hit it more.
Exactly.
The name of the game is scoring. Outscoring the other opponent, you win. So if I get to outscore the other opponent and I can shoot 60% inside the twos and I'm going to shoot 38, 40% in the threes, then I got to be strategic about the threes and I got to make my living in the twos.
Yes, and that's the point I was getting to, being strategic. Dallas shot 45 3-pointers last night.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And they were doing a Hail Mary effect.
You want to know how many a 3-time world champion with 2 of the best shooters to ever be on anybody's team in the NBA. They shot 28. That tells you everything that you need to know.
Right.
Everything you need to know. Well, while we talked about that, I do want to transition into just bringing more awareness to this because it is sad. We do mourn the victims that have passed away in the Buffalo shooting. It's crazy how when it first happened, I want to say I was leaving work. I was coming back. My mom was like, "Did you see the news?" I said, "No, what's going on?" She said, "It was just a mass shooting at Buffalo." And it's sad how 11 were black and 2 were white. And you know how you were saying,
let's just take a quick, 30 seconds of silence to honor those two. Okay. Carry on, Kenny.
Yes. It's sad though because it's just another mass shooting. Like you said, Mr. Peters, earlier, how you had to ask some of your peers basically, why do you always clutch your purse when I'm in the elevator and we're going the same place? This has like no excuse at all. I really don't even want to hear the insanity plea that they might try to say or anything. This was a planned murder. This shooter was not of any other minority. He was white. He was 18 years old. And in the past, it also showed how when he was at high school, it raised eyebrows, but authorities did nothing. They even said that in the news, even called FBI at one point, and they decided to do nothing. So I did want to bring awareness to this. I wanted to say it's sad, and it's just you have to worry about being black, going somewhere else. And this also ties into, I don't want to be like that, but it ties into why certain students do choose HBCUs. It ties into it. You get tired of dealing with that. It just don't make no sense. It doesn't. So I just wanted to, I don't know if you guys want to say anything about that. And then on top of that, it just showed how also when the dispatcher was being called, and I kind of want to do some more statistics on it just to see, since we're talking about probability, what's the ratio between minorities and blacks within Buffalo. Because when they first called the dispatcher and she was whispering because she was in a mass shooting, the dispatcher hung up.
Mm-hmm.
Now they looked at being fired. But it's like, you expect me to scream that I'm getting shot at? I'm also trying to live.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, but it shows that no matter, I had to tell some of my friends because I'm from up north. Granted, they might not show it as much as it is in the south. It doesn't matter if I'm up north or down south. People are always gonna be racist.
You
Always.
know, um, we've lived a few more years than you, Kennedy, and we've been. I'm glad you know that, and we've been in and out of all kind of circles. I'm gonna stand on this because I've done, experiments. I can do an example right now with kids and show you this. But racism is taught.
Mm-hmm.
Racism is taught. And some kind of way, and I don't understand why that chain has never been broken. And there's a few selected families where that chain gets broken, and that racism is not continued to be passed down. But it's few and far in between. And but racism is taught. So if you take kids, a bunch of preschoolers, a bunch of kids that are in daycare, when they're very very young, they don't know color and they don't act and behave that way. But if you watch those same kids matriculate through life, they do this. That's because racism is taught. At some point, it's brought to their attention when you're different.
That's right,
Johnny, and it's taught. And we have to, just like on our side, it's taught that it's coming.
Yep.
It's taught that it's coming, and you have to be taught how to deal with it so you're not thrown off guard by it. So you're taught that even though, hey, you're not a friend, the world sees you differently.
that's right.
And so I've been in those positions where I go with my friend, we're together, but we're treated totally different. So I just have very little empathy for the continued teaching of racism because that's intentional. That's an intentional decision of adults to teach hatred. So I can't vibe with that. And I tell wherever I go, I tell my white friends, it's taught. And until you're willing to stop teaching it, it's not going to be any impact. So my question is, what impact are you going to make to break this chain? Just in your family, just in your circle, because it's being taught. And you
got to start somewhere. In other words, we can't just keep pointing fingers. And so at some point, somebody's got to take responsibility for it because now we can't go to church. We can't go to the grocery store.
Can't sit in our own apartment.
Right. So we're running out of options here, people.
Running out of options, which is why I'm glad. Like, this is the type of research I want to conduct to show people like numbers don't lie.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers don't lie. This is what's actually going on, whether you want to sit up here and try to be oblivious to it or not. Numbers don't lie.
Let me. In 2017, there's a video on the internet somewhere where even the state attorney of Florida was pulled over by some cops.
Yes.
And if you just watch, again, this wasn't a situation where it turned violent, but she was very calm. But even as a state attorney, she had to be very calm and couldn't make no sudden movements because she knew she couldn't fix it right there on the side of the road.
Right.
And this is the highest. You see what I'm saying? So that's the thing, that when you black, I don't care how much money you got, I don't care how much degrees you got. There are some things you have to deal with that your white counterparts don't. And so you got to always explain that. And so I'm telling you, that is real. I have seen it 2 miles from my house in my own neighborhood.
Hey, same here. So
And
it's
I swear to God, the only reason I think I'm sitting here unharmed talking to you guys today is because the voice of my daughter and that the officer that pulled me over had kids. And she was young and looked in the back seat. And I don't even know if she remembers the magnitude of what she said. She said, "You're not going to hurt my dad, are you?"
same. It's sad though, but and even when that video that you were saying where she had to change her demeanor, and once them officers realized she was an actual attorney, they changed theirs. They
Right.
changed theirs right away. They just said, "Oh, never mind. She's actually."
But here's the thing I don't get, right?
You shouldn't have to be that though.
Yeah, you shouldn't
Right.
have to do it.
Right. I mean, you run the tag, you see it's a state vehicle. So that should give you some kind of clue there. Okay. Then she asked the question, well, why wasn't my plate run in the first place? What was the we run plates all the time, just what we do. So the notion that it was just simply okay, no, it's not okay just to run plates just because you run. And then if you go deeper, no, you didn't run plates just to run plates. You ran plates because you saw it was a black person driving that car.
Right.
See, that's the undertone, and we know that. And so that's what I'm saying. Racism is taught, and it's taught in ways that people sometimes don't even realize they're teaching it, and they got that. And I have to call it out, and we have to call it out, and we have to educate our white counterparts that want to be educated, and we have to call it out when we see it, and we have to be bold enough to do that and have real talk and real conversations about it. I don't shy away from it.
No need. I mean, at this point, everybody knows what's out there. It's just a matter of framing the discussion in a way to have people actually engage in meaningful dialogue and not into tit for tats or, well, what about this? Instead of addressing the issue, people like to cross match. Well, what about black on black crime? What about no? Let's address this issue head on. Exactly. There are other issues that need addressing, but let's talk about this one.
Yeah. Kennedy, as we wrap up the final 2 minutes we got here today, what else you want to touch on?
So the last thing that I wanted to touch on, I always like to draw things in from a social standpoint and economic standpoint, and I always like to highlight stuff that's going on in Jackson. So it's about some Hinds County supervisors decided to use ARPA funds on economic development. So it's basically the ARAP is American Rescue Plan Act funding, and it's going to be roughly $45 million. So my question is, and also the three members that were talking about it on this past Thursday was Supervisor Credell Calhoun, Bobcat McCowan, and Vernon Gavin. And they also touched on how claims that the county was not only misusing the money, but that two board members were left out of the planning process. So, Jackson has came a long way. I honestly tell my students, even people that came from Mississippi, that it's not Mississippi is Mississippi because of its governmental officials. It could be great. It could literally be close to another Texas. So do you think, Dr. Irvin and Mr. Peters, that now that Dion isn't not only showing highlight to Jackson State, but it's also showing highlight to the city of Jackson, the city of Jackson feels like they have to raise their standards and start focusing on economic development? Because now you're going to bring in, like y'all just said, a housing crunch. Mm-hmm. A lot of more students, new Black engineers, lawyers, doctors. So do you think that ties hand in hand?
Yeah, it's definitely a correlation. But the city has to get its act together. County has to get their act together and recognize the impact. And one of the largest drivers of economic development in this region is Jackson State football. Mm. Jackson State athletics. Coach Reed in her outfit. You have to once recognize it, and then you have to not just plan, because there are plenty of plans. There's master plans, there's infrastructure plans, there's economic plans, there's plans. That's not enough. You have to actually act, even if it's small. You have to act, because what's happened over the years is deterioration to the point that now there's a class action lawsuit going on for water consumption by children in Jackson, Mississippi, due to the terrible pipe issue.
Yeah.
You got lead poisoning. So those things don't happen overnight, you know. It's not something that happens like, oh, boom, pipes go bad. No, those pipes have been bad since we were in school.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so you allow it to fester, but you can't now be let off the hook to say, well, the problem is so large, the scale and magnitude of it is so large that we can't do anything. No. You got to get out of that mindset.
You got to do something.
You can't be overwhelmed and not act.
Yes.
If that's the case, then you are underwhelming, and we need to remove you from office.
And
somebody that can do the job.
Yes, and I think another thing too. Not saying that it's affecting it a little bit, but not as much. But the water issue, I truly believe we could even have a higher rate of incoming freshmen if that wasn't such a big issue. Sometimes incoming new students and transfers, we could have even before Dion came. If I'm being honest.
Yeah,
that's just when I first came.
But then too, as it relates to tuition and increasing enrollment, COVID hurt everybody.
Yes,
and so that's why I say you kind of step back from that and look forward as to what happens now, next year, the year after, over the next 10 years. Jackson State will be remade. The city of Jackson, if they're smart, will be remade.
Very true.
It's an opportunity to have a huge economic engine driving and creating a perfect storm.
Because I'm going to be a little jealous. I mean, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to be jealous when I see all the
students. Well, listen, Kenny, don't feel bad. Hey. Don't feel bad. Because I'm
going to feel that way about us.
Yeah. Because y'all looking better than we did. Right? Look.
all we had was the 5-day greased chicken. Y'all have options.
Right. No options. What no options? What you talking about? Then add-ons to what y'all have, please. No, I don't want to hear.
No, ma'am.
Just a tad.
No, ma'am. No.
Look, I could go to the bathroom and I didn't even have to go out my door to get there. So just you do the math on that one.
Oh, yes. But that is any other things y'all like to say before we head out this weekend? That's wraps up the show today.
I will officially say congratulations.
Thank you
to the member of our family, and as you get ready to do your summer intern, but also to the newest Delta Sigma Theta that I know. And
so hard to be a Delta. Congratulations.
Thank you.
The Reds.
I'm gonna let you close us out, Kenny, and send us out in the way that only your Delta can. So I'm gonna let you go and do your thing.
Do my thing. What you want me to do? You want me to see?
Whatever your heart desires.
Well, I don't really have anything. I would just say thank you for you guys for always supporting me ever since I was a young buck, a sophomore year. And I'm going to my senior year. I got one more year, so I got to make the best of it with you all. But thank you guys always for being leaders in my life. I do appreciate it. And I hope everybody has a safe weekend. And remember, the best way is the red way.
There you have it.
Take us out, Mr. Peters. Have a great weekend, y'all.
Have a good weekend.